For years, La Bella Vita had been ours. The dim lighting, the scent of fresh basil lingering in the air, the quiet hum of intimate conversations. It was where we celebrated anniversaries, toasted to new promotions, and stole moments away from the world. It was sacred, a place woven into the fabric of our love story. So when I stepped inside that evening, expecting nothing more than to pick up takeout for a quiet night at home, the last thing I anticipated was seeing her. My wife, sitting by the window laughing. But she wasn't alone. At first I froze. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe the shadows had twisted reality, and my mind was playing cruel tricks on me. But then I heard her voice, soft, familiar, unmistakable. I saw the way she twirled a lock of hair around her finger, the telltale giggle she used when she was flirting. And then I saw him. He wasn't just some stranger. He was younger, well-dressed, confident. Too confident. He leaned in, his mouth close to her ear, whispering something that made her throw her head back in laughter. A sound I hadn't heard from her in a long time. Something inside me twisted, but before I could fully process it, my feet moved forward of their own accord. I didn't storm out. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I walked straight to the maitre d'. "Good evening, sir. How many will be dining tonight?" I glanced toward their table, then back at him. "3. I see my wife already has a seat. Just bring me a chair." The maitre d's eyes flickered between me and them. He must have sensed the tension seeping from my skin, but to his credit, he simply nodded. "Right away, sir." As I approached, the laughter at the table died. Her eyes met mine, widening in panic. "Ethan," she stammered, fingers trembling as they reached for her wine glass. "What are you doing here?" I pulled out the chair the waiter had just placed. "I was going to ask you the same thing." The man beside her shifted uncomfortably, his gaze bouncing between us like he was waiting for permission to speak. "Who's this?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. She hesitated. He spoke first. "I'm Alex. No last name. No explanation. Just Alex. Nice to meet you, Alex." I forced a polite smile that felt more like bared teeth. "So, how do you two know each other?" She swallowed hard, her hands clenched around her napkin. "Ethan, we don't have to do this here." But I wasn't letting her off the hook. "Not this time." "No, I think this is the perfect place." I gestured around us. "After all, this place holds so many memories for us. I'd love to make another one tonight." She closed her eyes for a brief moment, as if praying I would stop. Alex, either braver than I expected or just incredibly foolish, cleared his throat. "I didn't know you were married." "Liar." The hesitation in his voice, the way he avoided my eyes, I knew he knew. Maybe she had told him I was out of the picture. Maybe she had spun some story about us being separated. But he knew something. "She tends to leave out important details," I said, my voice edged with something sharp enough to cut. The waiter appeared then, placing a third menu in front of me. "Can I start you off with a drink, sir?" I exhaled slowly, leaning back in my chair. "Whiskey." "Neat." Neither of them spoke. She stared at her lap, while Alex fidgeted with his napkin. The tension at the table was suffocating, thick enough to choke on, but I refused to be the one to break it. I wanted to see if she would. Finally, she whispered, "Ethan, please. Let's talk in private." "Talk about what?" I challenged. "The fact that you're here on a date while I was at home waiting for you? The fact that you lied about working late? Or the fact that you brought him to our restaurant?" Her lip trembled. I didn't mean for you to find out this way." I let out a humorless laugh. "Then how were you planning on telling me? Or were you planning on telling me at all?" Silence. That was my answer. The whiskey arrived. I lifted the glass, the amber liquid catching the light, and downed it in one slow, burning sip. It burned, but not nearly as much as the realization settling in my chest. I turned to Alex. "Tell me something. Did you enjoy your dinner? Was the food good?" He glanced at my wife, then back at me, unsure how to answer. "Oh yeah, it's good." "Great." I set the empty glass down with a soft clink. "Because this is the last meal you'll ever have with her." I stood, pulling my wallet from my pocket and dropping a $100 bill onto the table, more than enough to cover their meal. "Consider this my parting gift," I said, my eyes locked on my wife's. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't care. Not anymore. Without another word, I turned and walked out, leaving them behind in the ruins of what used to be our place. Outside, the cold air hit like a slap, sharp and unforgiving. But the pain in my chest was worse. I stood there for a moment, staring at the city lights, my hands clenched into fists. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to feel rage. But all I felt was hollow. I should have been angry. I should have been consumed by rage, by the sheer humiliation of it all. But beneath the fury, beneath the sharp sting of betrayal, there was something worse, something hollow and heavy. I had walked out, made my dramatic exit, but now what? Was I supposed to just go home, step back into the life we had built together as if I hadn't just watched it shatter before my eyes? The house would still be the same. Her perfume would still cling to the pillows. Her clothes would still hang in the closet. Her shoes would still be by the door. And worst of all, her lies would still be woven into the very walls. I wasn't ready to face that. So I walked. I didn't know where I was going, maybe nowhere. Maybe I was just trying to outrun the image of them together. But no matter how far my feet carried me, it followed like a shadow. The laughter, the way she leaned in, the way she looked at him. Had she ever looked at me like that? Had she looked at me like that recently at all? I ended up at a bar a few blocks down, a quiet, dimly lit place where no one asked questions and the whiskey was poured generously. I ordered a drink, but this time, I didn't throw it back in a desperate attempt to numb the pain. No, I sipped it slowly. I wanted to feel this. I wanted to let it carve itself into my memory so that I would never make the mistake of trusting her again. Halfway through my glass, my phone buzzed. Her. I stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. Then it buzzed again. A text. Ethan, please. Talk to me. I turned the phone face down on the bar. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. But fate had other plans. Not even 5 minutes later, the door swung open, and there she was. Her eyes found me instantly, still red-rimmed, her mascara smudged just slightly. She looked torn between regret and desperation. For a second, she hesitated, maybe expecting me to walk out again. But when I didn't move, when I didn't so much as flinch, she took a slow, cautious step forward. Ethan, can we talk? I didn't answer. I just lifted my glass and took another sip, letting the silence stretch, thick and suffocating, until it became unbearable. She sighed and pulled out the stool next to me. Please. I exhaled sharply and finally met her gaze. Talk. She bit her lip, glancing down at the bar, as if searching for the right words. I never wanted you to find out like that. Oh, I said, my voice cold. So you didn't want me to find out. Just on your terms, right? She flinched, but she didn't deny it. How long? I asked. She swallowed hard. A few months. A humorless laugh escaped me as I shook my head. Months. I didn't know why I expected anything less, but hearing it confirmed, knowing that she had chosen to betray me over and over again, it was like another knife to the gut. Why? My voice was quieter this time, almost too soft. She hesitated, and for a brief second I saw it, the guilt, the shame. Maybe even remorse. I don't know, she whispered. I snapped. You don't just wake up one day and decide to wreck your marriage. So tell me the truth, Sarah. Was it him? Did he make you feel something I couldn't? She shook her head quickly. It wasn't like that, Ethan. I swear. Then what was it like? She ran a hand through her hair, exhaling shakily. I felt like we were drifting apart. Like I wasn't seen anymore. And then Alex, he was just there. And it was easy. Easy. I repeated the word under my breath, letting it roll over my tongue like poison. I don't love him, she said suddenly. I never did. She exhaled. I just didn't know how to fix us. I leaned back, studying her. So instead of trying, you replaced me. She looked away. She didn't deny it. And somehow, that hurt more than anything. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Around us, the bar buzzed with life. Glasses clinking, laughter spilling from strangers who had no idea that my world had just fallen apart. But at that moment, none of it mattered. We were frozen, trapped in the wreckage of something that used to be us. Finally, I spoke. Do you regret it? Her eyes snapped up to mine, wide and glassy. Of course I do. I tilted my head slightly. Do you regret getting caught? Or do you regret what you did? She opened her mouth, then closed it. That pause told me everything. I nodded slowly, pushing my drink aside. That's what I thought. Her breath hitched. Ethan, what are you saying? I stood, grabbing my jacket. I'm saying we're done. Her face crumbled. No. No, please, Ethan. No, my voice was firm, steady. For the first time that night, I felt certain. You made your choice. And now I'm making mine. I didn't wait for her response. I didn't look back. This time, she didn't follow me. And as the cold air hit my skin once more, I realized something. The ache was still there. The pain. The betrayal. But underneath it, there was something else. because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding on to something that was already broken. I was finally letting go. And maybe, just maybe, that was the start of something new.